Vale, for the few people that might not know you, could you tell us in one sentence who you are and what you do?
Hi, Danny. My name is Valérie Morfitis. I'm the CEO of Data in Belgium, which is a media sales house on the Belgian market.
And as a CEO, what do you do? What is your daily job there?
Well, that's a good question. I would say that my role is generating growth and value for the business, for people, and for ecosystem.
That ecosystem is for a big part also member of BPX. Could you tell us why it's important to have something like BPX and why it is good to be a member of this organization?
Yeah, well, to start with, I have to say that in my career, because before joining Data, I had a long career on the advertiser side, and I have always valued the what we call the industry bodies. BPX is one of them. I've been 10 years on the board of the UBA. This is quite critical, especially in times of crisis, in times of tension, that industry bodies have the capacity and the ability to join forces and to develop, in the case of BPX, but also others in the industry association, to develop a common vision on a sector, on an industry, and on possible problematics. And that's exactly what BPX is doing. I think it's a very good example. The sector is under pressure, as we all know. So what do we do in times of pressure? We join forces, of course, taking all the anti-competitive law into consideration. That seems obvious, but there are a lot of things that we can do that BPX is doing. For example, developing a common vision. Every actor, every member will have his own ambition, his own mission, and business strategy. Nevertheless, the industry body is able to develop common grounds, common ambition, developing tools, studies, research that help the sector to grow further.
You had a long and prosperous career internationally, representing advertisers. You're now in charge of a big Belgian brand. BPX is also defending these Belgian news brands. What's the importance of having these very strong local brands in a world that's more and more globalized?
Yeah, but it's even more important, I would say, Danny, because we all know that the international platforms are gaining in importance. We all know that AI is a potential, or is a potential danger of risk for the news brands across the globe. So it is absolutely critical that at local level that we gather the forces and that we develop a common vision to put a little bit what the big platforms are bringing to the market into perspective, and put the local news brands in this case in the spotlight of what they can offer to advertisers and to readers and to consumers next to potential big international players.
BPX did this giant study on the sentiment, the pulse of Belgium, on the sentiment of the Belgians, and also analyzing all of the contents from 6 months of about every major Belgian newspaper. And Fons van Dijk brought the results, or a part of these results, a minute ago. Was there stuff that surprised you, that you say, I didn't know that stuff? What's your takeaway from this study?
Well, first of all, I was very happy to see Fons, someone I respect, and I think the whole of the Belgium industry truly respects for his the value that he brought to the industry across so many years. A couple of interesting things for me from this study. First of all, it's a national study, which is absolutely critical. We know that we are operating on a market with different cultures, and the consumer feels differently, acts differently. Sometimes it's less the case, and that's what forms. That's what Fons did very well, is to highlight the differences in terms of feeling and attitudes from different consumer on the Belgian market. And I think this is truly, for my advertiser past, I would say, very valuable insight for the advertisers, for the creative, for sure, also media agencies, and to a certain extent, of course, to the media sales sources as well. What I also found interesting, Danny, in this study is that, we see, you and me, we've been around for a long time. We see so many studies about who is buying what, how many times, what's the frequency, who clicks on what, and all those kind of things. I'm not saying this is not valuable, but what Fons did, which is different, is that he highlighted what the consumer in Belgium, North, South, actually feels, the emotion, and that's very relevant, and that's very different from what we could have seen in other studies, and that's I believe it is very valuable as well. As I said, when it comes to the main conclusions, something as a media sales house which I found relevant was, you see, the consumer is interested in what's happening in wars and in conflicts and in very negative news, and we also heard that from the editors in chiefs later during the panel. However, they are also in need of comforting news, reassurance, consistency, positivism in this difficult times, and I think for the news brands, then looking from the media point of view, we have a role to play there, because we are on the Belgian market and in other markets, of course, trusted brands. We are lighthouses in the life of people, and we have there, I believe, a responsibility towards the readers and the population in general. And those trusted brands are also lighthouses when it comes to advertising. Advertisers who invest in news brands in Belgium know that they are investing in a very trusted environment with very strong communities of readers, of communities of consumers who engage a lot with their news brands. And I believe there is a very big potential there also in terms of advertising.
No, and you just mentioned that we can say we need to defend Belgium and we need to defend Belgian brands and Belgian news brands and until tomorrow. But a big part in that is the money. So follow the money. And quite a lot of the Belgian advertising money is not actually staying in Belgium at Belgian sales houses and actually benefiting the Belgian brands. And also you see both sides of the story, because for years you've been in an international environment where that pressure to put money into these big machines is normal and justified. What can be done to keep as much money as possible to these Belgian brands, and how can we actually help advertisers make that decision and defend that decision to their very often international overlords?
Well, it's a very good question indeed. The last 5 years, and minus my ads and data experience, I had indeed an international global role at a major international advertiser. Maybe just a side note, because I was of course working with our biggest markets all over the globe, and I saw some of the markets, especially in Southeast Asia, where basically you see that, I wouldn't say there is no local media anymore. That would be a little bit exaggerating, having said so. You have one public TV channels, you have one or two newspapers trying to survive, but basically there is no local ecosystem anymore. And in those markets, as an advertiser, you are trying to build a media plan, you are trying to launch a brand, you are trying to generate penetration for a new product. There is no other place to advertise that the big international partners. And that is really, coming back to my homeland, I would say, to Belgium, really something I devote my time to avoid, because there is a risk of, from a media advertiser business perspective anyway, in those cases, the media plans are becoming very weak. non-effective, non-efficient, and broadly speaking, for the society, it is becoming dangerous when there are no local medias anymore, and then the only voice that you hear as a local citizen are very global voices coming from the US or whatever, China. So that's really something which is very close to my heart, because I saw with my own eyes what the effects are on societies where basically the local medias are gone. To answer to your question, I'm not going to tell you, dear advertiser, don't put your money on global tech, put everything. I mean, let's be honest. It's not going to happen. And the two will hopefully, for a very long time, coexist. The question is, where do you put the cursor? I believe global platforms have a role to play in a media plan for specific audiences, for example. Or if you work with influencers, you can amplify influencers' content on global platform. I mean, I'm not saying those are the devils, don't invest. I'm just saying be careful. Who are you talking to? What is the audience? What are you going to? Basic marketing, to be honest. What is the message? How do you want to convey that message? Is it, as we used to say in my previous career, is it brand say? Is it the brand talking to the consumer, or is it others say? Is it influencer talking to the consumer? So all of those elements play a role into that mix. What I see happening, though, which is very encouraging, I believe, for the local players, is that we used to say, big platforms, very big reach, very cheap, very efficient. And this is something that I see shifting since the last few months when I was back to Belgium, I would say. We now have evidence in terms of very strict return on advertising spend calculations that local platforms, of course, they are more expensive than global ones in terms of CPMs or whatever VCPMs, but local platforms are able to deliver a higher return on advertising spend, which makes look at the different platforms in a very, very different perspective. Am I paying a cheap price for very poor results at the end of the day? What is the impact of those advertising dollars, as we used to say, advertising euros, on my brands, on my sales? And if the Belgian actors, which is something we are very keen to demonstrate at Sendata, because of course we invest a lot in data. If we are able to demonstrate that the local players are delivering a higher returns on advertising spend, this is a sweet spot that can change a lot.
On the perception. Yeah. There's two slogans. On the one hand, you have Divide et Impera, and the other hand, you have United We Conquer. You represent Sendata as a sales house. There's different sales houses for the Belgian players. You're all competitors, and that's fair game. Are you working together enough to defend this Belgian market against the global power? It's a tricky question.
It is a tricky question, but it is an important one. I think there are, the deepest you are in the, I would use a word that I'm not going to say. The deepest you are in the problems, the more enthusiasm you will have to work together. And probably until a couple of years ago, 1 year ago even, everyone was doing okay, growing a little bit, but pretty much okay. No big panic. I believe last year we saw other market evolutions, and suddenly, what do we do? Is the Belgian ecosystem well sustainable on the long term? Exactly what I said, don't want Belgium to become one of those markets when there is no local ecosystem anymore. And then you see, maybe it's a shame, but at least there is an opportunity there, given the market circumstances, to work more closely together, and to expose and to evangelize the local markets on the advantages of using and investing in local content. We talked about the content of the news brands, but also in local advertising.
So we'll be able to become the Gallic village of Asterix in this global world?
Yeah, well, I think so, to be honest. I think so. You know Belgium very well. It's a very small industry. With a lot of talented people. We just need sometimes to, how can I say, to go further than our own business, our own ego sometimes, and to dare to say, let's think together how we can make this sector and this industry for the business, for the society, and for the people who work for us or with us, a successful and sustainable business for the future.
Thanks a lot.
You're very welcome.